Wife left us for her affair partner, so I made her regret it. Story 1. Caught my wife, 29 female, cheating on me, 29 male, again after a year. Why do I question my own sanity? Hello and good day to everyone. This is my first post on this site, and I simply wanted to share my thoughts, gain some inspiration, and rant because I don't have another channel available to me right now that allows me to do so. So I sincerely thank everyone who takes the time to read and express their honest opinions from an unbiased perspective. Background: my name is 29 male, my wife's name is 29 female, and we have 2 beautiful children under the age of 4 between us. Keep in mind that my wife is suffering from depression. At one point, I was admitted to the hospital and classified as suicidal. She is taking medication, or should be taking medication, as directed. Story: in December 2020, I realized that my wife had been having an extramarital affair. After a month had passed, in January 2022, my 2-year-old daughter gave me my wife's mobile phone, which had been left out in the living room. I had no idea what had happened until then. Because of an incoming text message, the lights were turned on in the room. When I picked up the phone, the text message, "I love you," was the first thing I noticed. As soon as I recognized the name, my stomach dropped. It was a close friend of hers. The information comes not just from that message, but also from prior conversations. Rage, amazement, disappointment, and doom were all emotions I experienced. What I was experiencing was a nightmare, and I couldn't believe I was in the midst of it. When I saw my wife with her phone in hand, I asked her a question. "I'm not sure what this is. So, what precisely is going on in this situation?" I'm not exaggerating when I say that the first thing she says to me is, "Why are you even looking at my phone?" As a consequence of this, I felt even more irritated. It was impossible for me to accept what she had said. She didn't show any sorrow until much later in our conversation, which was unusual. But now that I think about it, I'm not so sure. Her apologies was not sincere, as shown by the fact that I had to coerce it out of her mouth. Even yet, it's not the way I would act if I were in her circumstances, and I hope she understands that. In any case, she tells me her side of the story and admits that she had contact with this individual on a number of different occasions. She went on to say that she was really depressed and unhappy at home and that I was not giving her with what she needed, nor was I genuinely listening to her for a period of time. In general, she claimed to be the victim, blaming me for her actions and claiming that I was to blame. Of course, knowing what I know now, I had no clue how to react, so I just shrugged my shoulders and took the blame. I was quite resentful of myself for her cheating. Disaster and heartache are inadequate words to convey how I felt at the time, nor can they adequately explain how I feel even now. Just thinking about it, I would never want this kind of behavior on anybody else. It took approximately a month for me to decide to continue our relationship and pursue reconciliation. And the only way it could work was if she stopped the affair and blocked this individual from all social media platforms, messaging apps, and other such services. This wrecker of our home and our family must be removed from our abode and our family. Me, who was there when she called and blacklisted him from all social media networks, was witness to her deeds. After a year has gone, and despite the fact that there have been some bumps in the road, I have the sensation that things are beginning to improve. Couples therapy sessions were held once a week for around 6 to 7 months with the couples therapist. We concluded the classes with the impression that we no longer need them, and we immediately began putting what we had learned into practice. It is presently Saturday morning in the month of February 2022, and the date is February 2022. In order to provide our cat with some food, I got out of bed around 5:30 a.m. When I returned to our bedroom, I saw that her phone was still on the nightstand next to her. I immediately called her. Because it was a P account, I wanted nothing more than to put the phone down and go back to sleep until I saw it was my own account. When I first saw what I was experiencing, I couldn't believe what I was seeing. When I first woke up in the morning, I thought this was nothing more than a nightmare come to reality. I didn't read all of the texts since there were more than enough for me to go through. Suddenly, everything that I had believed had finished a year earlier flashed before my eyes like a burst of lightning. Although I was enraged this time, I managed to keep my cool, unlike the other 2 occasions when my temper flared. After I aroused her, I said to her, "What is the name of this individual?" As a result, what really is happening in this circumstance is unclear. She didn't say anything for another 5 to 10 minutes after that, according to my estimation. The room was deafeningly silent. She then goes on to describe it in more detail a second time after that. Not only was she not happy, but she was also depressed and she couldn't seem to shake the emotions she had for this specific guy. Just to make sure I was still alive, he reached out to me to see if everything was well with my family. As a result of my inability to trust her, she said things I couldn't believe. When I was given a second opportunity, the sliver of faith I had left in her was spat back in my face by the universe. She didn't show any remorse for what she had done immediately away. As part of her attempt to portray herself as the victim, she justified her actions by claiming that it was my fault since we had decided that we didn't need to continue couples counseling after 6 to 7 months. When I returned, I said that I had spent 30 minutes in the fresh air. At the moment, I'm looking at getting a divorce. It is impossible for me to torture myself endlessly despite the fact that I still adore you. As a result of that experience, I've been experiencing self-doubts. In my whole life, there has never been a time when my self-esteem has been worse than it is right now. For the simple reason that I was reared in this manner, I consider marriage to be essential. As a consequence, we're now in the process of retaining an attorney to aid us in preparing for the impending separation. I'm still taking it all in, reaching out to my pals for support and so on. However, in the case of our divorce, I would like to inform her family of the grounds for our separation rather than her attempting to conceal the facts. But what are your thoughts on this? Is it wise for me to go ahead and do it? I feel obligated to ensure that they do not fall for any deception she may spread in order to further her own objectives by spreading incorrect information. 1. Why do cheaters strive to portray themselves as victims when they are caught cheating? And how do they do this? It's not clear what it is about cheaters that causes them to cast the accusation onto their betrayed partners. When I wasn't the one who cheated, why do I have concerns about my own sanity? 3. Why do I have questions about my own sanity? Please accept my heartfelt thanks on behalf of everyone who has taken the time to read and comment on this post. Whatever happens to them, I hope that everyone who has moved on is in a better mental condition and that they are with someone who really loves and respects them, regardless of what happens to them next. I'm sorry I did this to you rather than I'm sorry I had this affair with you is the preferred expression. Sorry for what I've done to you. I cheated because I wasn't happy in the relationship. An obvious conclusion should have been reached a year ago. Because I cheated, it is all your responsibility. If you hadn't treated me correctly, we wouldn't be here now. All of my wife's comments are taken directly from her conversation with me. Since my STBXW cheated on me, I've been depressed, disgusted, betrayed, devastated, outraged, perplexed, and I've been viewing myself in a whole different way when I look in the mirror. There is no sense of remorse, empathy, or concern. You would be amazed at how easily cheaters can convince and surround themselves with friends who just help to fuel their cancerous habit by telling her that cheating was the only choice for getting out of a relationship she was unhappy with. I mean, what's the point of being an adult and simply having a talk about it? Even though I know that healing will take a long time for me, I'm having so many emotions at the moment that I'm suffering tremendous anxiety. My excitement for the divorce's completion is tempered by the sorrow of seeing the person you thought you knew finally decide to unveil their true colors, Bob, blaming you for everything horrible that has occurred in their life and only their lives over the course of a few months. Story 2. Found out wife cheated on me, has been cheating on me, same AP. I tracked down messages to the day it happened. I knew something was wrong the whole time, but I could never imagine this was the thing that was going on. So, I'm 24 years old, and my soon-to-be ex-wife is 25. We've been dating for 7 years, married for 3 years, with a 16-month-old kid. I'm the only one who works, and I earn roughly $100,000 per year, plus additional money from trading crypto/stock/NFTs. My hard work has resulted in a totally paid-off apartment. She has been lavished with material goods, both large and little. I purchase flowers and little, unexpected presents on a daily basis. For example, I've been bathing our infant since she was born, each and every time, not just to assist, but also because I enjoyed it. Every other night, she would put the baby to sleep so that we could sit and relax, make coffee, watch a movie, snuggle, or whatever. Not because I wanted a dead bedroom. I was always prepared to travel, and I always made sure that she came first when it came to her requirements. She has always assisted her mother and father, who live in another country, with money and other matters. I have to confess that they have loved me like their kid from day one. They still do. They have no idea about this and many more things. I had a feeling something was awry since she was behaving strangely when I discovered it. She confessed everything, fell into tears, and begged me not to abandon her. I think it's too late for that now. She had previously cheated, both physically and emotionally, according to the messages. Every single day, a few times a day, she genuinely cries and begs me not to leave her. What are you sobbing over? If I was so horrible that you needed to cheat on me? It's so strange. I know she's not in communication with AP since she informed me when he texted her while I was at work. She even took a snapshot and asked me what she should do. I advised her to do whatever she wanted since she put herself in that situation, not me. She texted him, claiming that everything she did was a horrible mistake, that it should never have occurred, that she genuinely loves me, that she can't fathom losing me, and so on, and she requested him not to contact her again. She even blocked him, and so on. I'd want to remain together since not being able to see the child every single day would practically kill me. But you know what I reasoned. I'd rather endure not being able to be with her all of the time than have her grow up in a home where things don't operate as they should. One item is really perplexing me. Wife is uninterested in anything. He isn't interested in the automobile. He isn't interested in the condo. He isn't interested in the money. He doesn't desire anything. She vows that if I decide to divorce her and I can't forgive her, all she wants is a little assistance with a child and for me to step in and help if she can't afford everything for her. I'll make sure my baby is taken care of as long as I'm living. I have a question for the women and men of this community. Do you believe this is a case of too much Mr. Nice Guy? Or what is your point of view? I'm extremely interested. Also, how would you behave if you were in my situation? Also, I apologize if my English isn't perfect, it's my second language. Thank you so much. Story 3. Still hurts after 2 years. For 4.5 years, I, 30 male, was in a relationship with 35 female. On a regular basis, I am happy and loving, yet I am also disturbed. She had a drinking issue. She drank often and in large quantities. In one night, all sorts of drink were mingled together. She was an extremely furious, aggressive, and physical alcoholic who would sometimes be violent towards me. Nothing wrong with that, but it's clearly a huge line crossed. She'd get booted out of weddings, including one when I was a groomsman, create conflicts in public, and even provoke fights that resulted in her being assaulted. Random males sometimes came at the door, probably encouraged there, and I lost count of the amount of taxi drivers I had to bargain with to return phones or calm them when they weren't paid. It was awful, and I was foolish enough to believe I could assist or that she would miraculously awaken one day and figure herself out. I was much more patient than I should have been. I was always the one who cleaned up the mess. It was my first relationship, and I was dating with the intention of marrying. I was also terrified to leave since I didn't want to be alone. It did, however, inevitably create major problems in the partnership. The repercussions and hangover sadness she was perpetually in was a whirlwind of feelings. I vehemently recommended counseling or better control each time, and each time I had a sharp, defensive reaction, and you can image the rest. Furthermore, for 18 months, at the end, she was surreptitiously cheating with a married guy she met drunk in a pub, who also happened to be a work colleague. This was discovered by her later. They'd meet in secret, either at our house or his. They would drink and have together, which supposedly occurred at least 10 times. It came out when the other person messaged me to explain what had happened, as he was obviously an alcoholic seeking counseling to mend his divorced marriage. I didn't answer, but I did confront my ex about it. At the time, I was foolish enough to trust my ex's narrative since it seemed reasonable enough. I was skeptical, really, but I was also loving the feel of all the sand around my head. Cheating occurs to other people, not to me, I reasoned. After a few months, we decided to call it quits in September 2020, one dispute too many. I'm lying in bed one night when a light bulb flashes off in my head regarding this weird message I received from this man a few weeks ago, so I react by asking whether it was real. He claims it is, so I put my ex on the spot. She claims it isn't, but I tell her that's not what he said. Then she comes clean and confesses it. Instantaneous horror. She gets a spontaneous twinge of empathy for someone else and asks me to chat about it later that evening at her house. I knew it was a bad idea, but I was so traumatized, to be honest, that knowledge looked like the greatest solace. When I arrive, instead of contrition, I get verbal abuse and threats of violence after expressing my evident distress. In my distraught condition, I lost myself, took a spare set of keys, and unintentionally entered and damaged her property, resulting in a police caution, which I'm not proud of, but hasn't become a source of joy either. All the rest of the nonsense. There were more hopeful talks about empathizing with me during Christmas 2020 during a naive effort to form a friendship, but we drifted apart. Last spring, I went to therapy, learned a lot about myself, and came out a much wiser and healthier person. I last heard from her in June 2021 after she had a bad automobile accident, and I believe she was looking for some cheap emotional validation, which I didn't supply, and was curious as she was dating her now boyfriend at the time, Zeus. I don't believe the narcissist within her was expecting this, so I got a beautiful diatribe about how nobody cared what I thought because I was a broken record. I'd had too much therapy at that time to take it too seriously, but it irritated me. It irritated me that it irritated me. Make no mistake about it, she is a train wreck narcissist. I miss her company, but I don't want her back. She clearly hasn't matured, and I only feel sorry for her current partner, who will be enjoying a similarly beautiful life without knowing what she's up to in secret, while also being love bombed and future fabricated as I was. I, on the other hand, am more at peace than I have ever been in my life. It might be lonely at times, but I wouldn't trade it for anything. It irritates me, though, that she continues to absolve herself of any responsibility. I tell myself it's the overwhelming shame she feels, and I'm probably correct. If she ran into me in public, I'm sure she'd flee like the coward she is. A growing part of me wants this to happen, and I shouldn't be bothered. I feel the sorrow she created and the want to demonstrate that I am not damaged by it, that I am strong in spite of her and how she has wrecked my essential ideas about relationships. Despite how much I like the serenity, I think it's an indication of how destructive this was that I'm sitting here writing this. Or do I just need to get over it since it's been so long?